Quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting.
All right, let's take it from the top again. Places. Action.
Well, let's see. We have on the bags, we have who's on first, what's on second, I don't know is on third.
That's what I want to find out.
I say who's on first, what's on second, I don't know's on third.
Are you the manager?
Yes.
You going to be the coach, too?
Yes.
And you know the fellow's name?
Well, I should.
Well, then who's on first?
Yes.
I mean the fellow's name.
Who?
The guy on first.
Who?
The first baseman.
Who?
The guy playing first.
Who is on first?
I'm asking you who's on first.
That's the man's name.
That's whose name?
Yes.
Well, go ahead and tell me.
That's it.
That's who?
Yes.
Join us for another voyage back in time on Classic Radio Rewind. From adventures to westerns, from comedy to sci-fi, this is your ticket to Theater of the Mind. Without any further ado, here's your host for Classic Radio Rewind, Barry Slinker.
Happy New Year's, Dex Row, and Happy New Year's, everyone. Welcome to Classic Radio Rewind. I'm Barry Slinker, and today's release date of this podcast, being New Year's Eve, will focus on Old Time Radio USA's annual Suspense New Year's Marathon that begins later today at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, but we'll talk more about that at the end of today's show. We have an exciting 2 hours packed with classic suspense episodes to get you ready for tonight's marathon. So we're going to jump right into it with an episode from 1945, a rather confusing story about a monster loose in the countryside town of Dunwich. From November 1st, 1945, this is Suspense with The Dunwich Horror.
Play produced, edited, and directed by William Spear. Come in, Dunwich, Massachusetts. Come in, Dunwich.
Good evening. This is Henry Armitage. I'm speaking to you. Dr. Rice, please close the window. I'm speaking to you from my laboratory on the slopes of Sentinel Hill near Dunwich, Massachusetts. Present with me is Dr. Warren Rice, my distinguished colleague from Miskatonic University. We are now about 100 yards from the summit of the hill, which is crowned by a huge table-like stone set in the center of a circle of stone pillars, a place of prehistoric worship. A moment ago, you may have heard the dogs of Dunwich Township barking, as we have heard them for 3 days and 3 nights. Dr. Rice and I know the horror which their barking portends, but the purpose of this broadcast is to make this unbelievable horror believable to you. I hope for your sakes and ours we are successful tonight. It is the eve of All Hallows. Tomorrow will be too late. Our time tonight is very short, so I'll speak only of those more recent events which, believe me, may culminate at any moment in a climax too frightful to wholly contemplate. I will begin with the birth of Wilbur Whately. It was the night of February the 2nd, 1921, Candlemas. Toward dawn, when Lavinia Whately, a deformed albino woman about 35 years old, gave birth to her dark, goatish-looking son in the crumbling Whately farmhouse northeast of the village. No one attended her. No doctor or midwife. No one was with her, except her aged, half-insane father, who was known as Wizard Whately. So Wilbur came into this world under heaven knows what incantations, what appeals to what power. A week later, Wizard Whately drove his sleigh into Dunwich village and reported the event to a group of loungers in Osborne's general store.
Hey, your grandson got yellow hair like Lavinia, Wizard?
No, takes after his father more. He's dark.
You never spoke of who his father might be now, did you?
Oh, you'll know his father when the time comes. Oh, Lavinia's read and seen some things the most of you only talk about. I calculate her husband's as good as you can find this side of Aylesbury.
Well, we don't be nosy, Wizard.
Maybe it warn't no church that none of you heard of. But you wouldn't ask no better church wedding than Lavinia's.
Well, I didn't hear tell of no wedding, Wizard. When was that?
Oh, not a wedding you'd hear of, Corey. Not a husband you'd hear of, neither. But let me tell you something. Someday you folks will hear a child of Lavinia's calling its father's name on top of Sentinel Hill.
Prophecy? Or idle boasting by an insane old man? Oh, I know I ask a great deal when I ask you to believe that the arrival of an infant into that house of dire poverty and squalor could possibly constitute a horror and a threat to all our known world. Yet it has an earthly history. Perhaps through this history you will be able to give it credence. Wilbur Whately's growth was uncanny. But even if he had been an average child, he would have become, in time, an unnatural being, for he was surrounded from the first by the most malign influence. There was his grandfather, old Whately, Wizard Whately, who each Halloween climbed Sentinel Hill to the great circle of stone, and while the hills shook, stood holding a great book open on his arms and shrieked into the wind. Shrieked.
Yog Sothoth! Yog Sothoth! Yog Sothoth!
Yog Sothoth. That dreadful name, first mentioned in the hideous forbidden book, the Necronomicon. And this Wizard Whately was Wilbur's teacher. The villagers began to notice curious things that were going on at the Whately farmhouse. Soon after Wilbur was born, old Whately began to remodel the house. The abandoned upper story was restored, and all the windows were tightly boarded up. And then, Wizard began to buy cattle in large numbers, both horses and cows. Yet the livestock on the farm didn't seem to increase. Young Lem Brown was one day curious enough to creep close to the house to count the Whately herd.
Dr. Armitage, there warn't more than 12 cows, and them sick. Looked like they had the blight and funny wounds on them, like cuts. I heard something, too, in the top part of Wizard's house. Something like water slapping inside, only big like the sea.
One other person went to the Whately farm in the years before I met Wilbur, Dr. Ken Houghton of Aylesbury, who was called by Wilbur himself, who said that his grandfather was dying. Dr. Houghton found the old man in a bedroom on the ground floor, and Wilbur with him. While outside the window, a legion of whippoorwills cried loudly and rhythmically, endlessly. Wilbur spoke about the sound.
Listen, he's whistling time with his breathing now. They're ready. Listen, Doctor. They know his soul's going out. They're waiting.
Yes, Wilbur, that's an interesting superstition. Late in the year for them, too.
When he goes, if they catch him, they'll keep laughing till break of day. If they don't catch him, they'll quiet down.
You mean you believe that... Just a minute. I think he's conscious.
Yes, the birds changed when his breathing changed. Like I say.
Willie!
I'm here.
More space, Willie. Remember, more space soon.
Yes, I'll build it.
You grows, but that grows faster. It'll be ready to serve you soon, Willie.
I know.
But remember, when it's time, you open up the gates to Yog Sothoth with the long chant, the one on page 7 and 51 of the book. But mind you, feed it enough, because if it gets out before you opens to Yog Sothoth, it's all over. It's no use.
He's going now. He's dead, Wilbur.
Listen. The birds, they didn't get him. Yes, he's free. He's gone.
It was the winter following Wizard Whately's death that I first met Wilbur. He came in person to the library at Miskatonic University to consult a copy of the hideous Necronomicon, which was kept there in its Latin version, as printed in Spain in the 17th century. I tell you, when he came into my office, I was appalled at his appearance. 8 feet tall, shabby, dirty, bearded. But I was even more appalled by his voice when he spoke to me.
I wrote you a letter a month past, Doctor. I wanted a loan of the book.
Well, that's a book that's never loaned from this library. I doubt if it is from any library.
Well, I have to see it then.
Very well. It's kept right here. As you know, there are only 3 copies of this book in existence. That's why we're careful. Here, you can look at it on this table.
Wizard said it would be on page 751.
What? What is it you're looking for?
Formula. The long chant. The one that opens the gate to Yog-Sothoth.
I felt a wave of fright as tangible as a draught from the tomb. It seemed somehow like the spawn of another dimension, like something only partly of mankind, linked to black gulfs beyond all spheres of force and matter, space and time. And presently he raised his head and spoke again.
It's here, all right, but I'll have to have a copy.
That paragraph there? I don't know.
Do you know Latin, Doctor?
Yes, certainly.
Then read it, Doctor. Let's hear how you make it out.
All right, that shouldn't be difficult. Let's see. Nor is it to be thought that man is the oldest or the last of Earth's masters. The old ones were, and the old ones shall be. Not in the spaces that we know, but between them. But only Yog-Sothoth knows the gate. Yog-Sothoth is the gate to where the old ones broke through of old. Their hands are at your throats, yet ye see them not.
Dr. Armitage, you see, I reckon I've got to take that book home. There's things in it I've got to try, and you can't hold me up.
No, I'm sorry.
I tell you, Doctor, I'll have the book sooner or later, no matter what. You see, it that's waiting for me at home won't wait much longer.
It was a week later that I was awakened suddenly by the fierce yelping of the great watchdog on the campus, followed by a sound from a wholly different throat, a scream. And I knew instantly that Wilbur had come back for the Necronomicon. I hastened into my clothes and rushed across to the library where a crowd had gathered before the smashed window of my office. Inside, there was a fearful groaning and growling, and some instinct warned me that what was taking place there was not for unfortified eyes to see. I brushed back the crowd, motioning only to Professor Rice to come in with me. When we opened the study door, Professor Rice screamed.
No, Dr. Armitage, no, I can't.
Come, close the door. We can't let them see. He's alive, but Lord, what a job that dog's done. Torn him to bits. Oh, it's a horrible sound, that moaning. Suppose we ought to call a doctor?
A doctor?
doctor for that? No doctor in the world would know what to do for that. Look, Armitage, it's not human nor animal. Where did it come from? Can you tell me? Can you tell me what it is?
No, I couldn't tell what Wilbur Whately was. The thing that lay half bent on its side in a pool of greenish-yellow stickiness was 9 feet tall. The dog had torn off all the clothing and some of the skin. It was partly human, beyond a doubt, with very man-like hands and head, but the torso and lower parts of the body were fabulous. Its chest had the leathery hide of a crocodile or alligator. But below the waistline, the skin was covered with coarse black fur. And from the abdomen, long greenish-gray tentacles. The limbs terminated in ridgy-veined pads that were neither hooves nor claws. And as Dr. Rice and I stood staring at this presence, the whippoorwills began to cry in unison outside the study window. And then the thing on the floor roused and mumbled.
God. God, God. God, shut up. God, doctor.
Armitage, in heaven's name.
Listen. The whippoorwill. Listen. Yes, he's dead now. Look, Rice. Look what's happening.
He's disintegrating.
Cold. Fast, too. Fading away. Because he isn't made of matter as we know it on Earth. I guess he took after his father. So there'll be nothing left.
His father? What was his father?
Oh, I daren't think. I thought then that what came into our world with Wilbur Whately left with him. I forgot what he himself had told me of it, which was waiting in the sealed house Wizard Whately had built, where the cattle were driven to disappear. But Wilbur Whately left a diary, written in a strange alphabet resembling Sanskrit. And I worked off and on for weeks to decipher it. And finally, I read the following passage written by Wilbur when he was no more than 8 years old.
That upstairs is more ahead of me than I had thought it would be, and is not like to have much earth brain. I can see it a little when I make the sign or blow the powder of Ivangatse at it. And it is like them I see Halloween on the hill. I wonder how I shall look when the earth is cleared and there are no earth beings. Maybe like that upstairs looks, which has no body, even fed with all the blood.
Toward morning, in a cold sweat of terror, I called Dr. Rice to my house and told him we have to destroy what's in that farmhouse.
Why can't we just leave the thing locked up there? The house is boarded tight.
Yes, but do you think boards will hold it? Don't you realize, man, it hasn't been fed? It hasn't had blood since the 18th of September, when Wilbur Whately came here to die. We left for Dunwich that night, and we've been here on Sentinel Hill ever since, working desperately to discover the formula in time. But a week ago tonight, shortly after dawn... Yeah, hello?
Dr. Armitage, this is Lem Brown. I was just up beyond the glen, Doctor, looking for cows I lost last night.
Yes, Lem?
Well, Doctor, something's been there. Smells like thunder, and there's prints in the road. Great round prints, big as barrel heads, like a elephant has been along.
Anything else, Lem?
That's all I see. except bushes and trees pushed back from the road like a house was drug along.
Ah. Did you hear anything?
Yes, long toward morning, I heard a sound over toward Whately's place, a kind of ripping or tearing of wood, like a big box was being opened up. Chansey, you heard it too.
Lem, who lives nearest the Whately farm?
Why, that'd be Elmer Fry's place.
Oh, he's on this line too, isn't he? Hang on and I'll ring him.
Yes, Dr. Armitage, this is Central.
I'm trying to get Elmer Fry, Central.
Doctor, he must be out somewheres, and his whole family. I was ringing there an hour ago. Earl Sawyer saw Elmer's cows stampeding in Cold Spring Glen.
Oh, you didn't get him. All right. But if you hear or see anything more, let me know. I'll be here working all day. Rice! Oh, wake up. It's loose. It's out of the house. One family gone already. We have to work. Pray God we find that formula in time. A week since it broke loose. A week of terror and panic here in Dunwich Township. Each night it moves about the countryside, leaving the trees crushed in a 30-foot swathe, as though by a moving mountain, leaving its monstrous tracks on a trail of tarry stickiness, leaving crushed and gutted farmhouses and whole herds of cattle drained of blood. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is the story to this moment. And tonight is Halloween. Tonight we are here to... Just one moment, please. Dr. Rice, did you hear something?
With the window closed, no?
Well, we'll throw it open. I thought so. Listen. The sound from 1,000 bending trees. Sound like the sea moving across a forest. Yes, it's coming here, of course. All Hallows, it comes to Sentinel Hill. Dr. Rice, I'll try the formula and the powder from the altar stone. I want you to stay here at the microphone and report what you see.
Very well, Dr. Armitage.
Oh, wait a minute before I go. To any scientists who may be listening to me, if I fail, there is a possible alternative formula in Falconer's Mystical Formulae of the Middle Ages on page 24. Listen. Well, there are the whippoorwills. I better get out there. Take over, Dr. Rice.
Yes. I'll do as well as I can, Armitage. Good luck. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Armitage is climbing to the top of the hill, to the altar stone. I can see him plainly, for the moon is high and the night clear. Down the hill, toward the dark village, I can see the grasses and shrubbery bending down, marking the monster's ascent. It moves quite fast, and I feel a proximity to phases of being utterly forbidden. Now, Dr. Armitage stands now on the altar stone and is holding the powder which, if the books are correct, will make this thing for an instant visible. It is quite close to him now, perhaps 20 yards or less. He lifts his hands. He flings the powder in a wide arc. I can see... Oh, no! No!
Dr. Rice. Come in, Dunwich. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your suspense announcer. Due to conditions... Oh, just a moment, please. One moment, please. Dr. Rice, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, for a moment I was overcome when I saw... Ladies and gentlemen, perhaps you can hear now the incantation of Dr. Armitage. Listen. The whippoorwills mean death. And Dr. Armitage is walking back here now. So we know that whatever it was, it is gone. It is dead. We can be thankful indeed. You see, I saw Dr. Armitage.
Yes. Did you see it, Dr. Rice?
I saw it, Lord, yes.
What did it look like to you?
It looked
here.
Like something made of squirming ropes, but bigger than a barn and shaped, well, like an egg, and dozens of legs, like barrels that half closed when it stepped, and nothing solid about it, and at least 15 or 20 mouths or trunks opening and closing, but what was it?
Oh, the kind of force. The kind of force that doesn't belong in our part of space. Did you notice the half face on top?
Half face, like a human face.
Yes, very large, but yes, quite human. And quite like Wilbur's, like all the Waitley.
Then it was...
That's right. It was Wilbur's twin brother. And you saw what 3 weeks' growth had done. And it was the child of Lavinia's who called its father's name on Sentinel Hill, as Wizard Waitley prophesied. You heard it calling, Yog Sotho. Ladies and gentlemen, this night is over. It is All Saints' Day. May heaven bless us all.
The Dunnage Horror, with Ronald Coleman as your star of Suspense. This is the Armed Forces Radio Service.
That was The Dunwich Horror as originally heard November 1st, 1945. Continuing with our New Year's Eve special, another from Suspense from 1943. A highly engaging and suspenseful drama about a newlywed whose husband mysteriously vanishes aboard a cruise ship. From November 9th, 1943, this is one of the more popular episodes from the Suspense series, Cabin B-13.
Suspense. This is the Man in Black, here to introduce Columbia's program, Suspense. In Hollywood this evening, our two distinguished stars are the lovely actress Margot and the polished young actor from Holland, Mr. Philip Dorn. A story by John Dixon Carr dealing with very strange happenings aboard an ocean liner and called Cabin B-13 is tonight's tale of suspense. If you have been with us before, you will know that suspense is compounded of mystery and suspicion and dangerous adventure. In this series are tales calculated to intrigue you, to stir your nerves, to offer you a precarious situation and then withhold the solution until the last possible moment. And so with Cabin B-13, and with the performances of Margot as Anne Brewster and Philip Dorn as Dr. Karl Heinrich, we again hope to keep you in suspense. Come now, in happier peacetime days, to a great ocean liner on the night of her departure for Europe. There she is at the West 22nd Street Pier, the 25,000-ton Mauravania of the White Planet Line. Smoke from her three funnels coils up lazily in mild October air. You can see the decks, white and shiny like shoeboxes, and the string of lights along them, and the band standing by on A deck to play her out. You can hear the murmur of an excited crowd, and the rattle of the steam winches as cargo is lowered into the hold. You can see the bustle of activity, and the second officer standing at the head of the gangplank as two rather late passengers hurry through the customs shed towards that gangplank.
It's all right, Ricky. We are not too late.
No, and I thought we'd be in time.
A honeymoon in Europe. 3 whole months with nothing to worry about.
That's right, dear. And you've been my wife for, let's see, practically 5 hours now.
I believe the correct phrase is it was so sudden, Mr. Brewster.
So sudden that we have to travel on our own passports instead of a husband and wife one. I hope they don't think you're not an honest woman.
I'm going to act like a complete wanton just to devil you. Oh, what about our tickets, Ricky? Do we give them to that officer standing at the top of the gangplank?
No, honey, you keep your ticket. The cabin steward will come around and collect it after we're underway.
And the money, Ricky?
It's a lot of money, Anne. $10,000 in cash. Maybe I better turn it in at the purser's office for safekeeping.
Yes, maybe you had. Wait a minute, Ricky.
What is it, then?
Wait. Do you mind if we stand here for a second before we go up the gangplank?
Oh, what's the matter? You're not ill, are you?
No, but getting over brain fever isn't any joke.
Oh, I know, dear.
You see, Ricky, I ought to be eager and excited like all those people up there, but suddenly you get fancies. Queer, sick fancies. Suddenly, right now, all I can think of is the night and the wind and all the black water in the dark.
And that's exactly the kind of morbid fancy I'm trying to cure you of.
I know, Ricky. I'll be good, but I was just thinking of a story.
What story?
Oh, never mind. It doesn't matter. Which way do we go?
Up the gangplank, through that door there, and then down on the elevator to B deck. And no more horrors, do you understand? Here we are, Anne. B deck and cabin number... Good Lord. B-13.
B-13.
You're not superstitious, are you?
Why, no, dear. Not about things like that. Open the door.
Here we are. Lights on and...
Oh, Ricky, darling. It's a beautiful cabin.
Best I could get. Well, they've got our luggage in anyway, and... Over there, madam, you'll find a basket of fruit and some books from your obedient servant.
Oh, you are nice to me. And I'm feeling so much better, Ricky. I will be all right, darling.
Of course you will. But you won't find any detective novels among those books.
Please, Ricky.
Detective novels may be all right for presidents and college professors, but they're straight poison to you. You'll read love stories and like it.
You know, Ricky, I keep thinking and thinking about that story I mentioned.
What story, dear?
It's an old one. You probably know it, but it was new to me. A woman and her daughter arrive in Paris and go to a hotel.
Oh, you mean the old Paris Exposition story?
Yes, that's it. The daughter goes out. When she returns, her mother has disappeared. And even the hotel room isn't the same. The proprietor of the hotel swears the girl came there alone and that there never was a mother. The whole room is different when she goes back to look at it. The girl goes to the police, and they won't believe her, and she's nearly crazy. Of course, it turns out that the mother has caught bubonic plague and died, and they're hushing it up so that the visitors won't keep away from the city and ruin the whole exposition,
Anne,
but...
You've got to stop this kind of talk.
I know. But imagine being in a situation like that, with all those queer eyes staring at you. Wondering if you'd lost your reason. Wondering if your brain had cracked and the whole world might dissolve and... Listen.
That's the last call, Anne. We'll be underway any minute now.
You know, Ricky, I would like to see the skyline go past and the Statue of Liberty and the rest of it.
Oh, then why not go up and see it? I've got to deposit this money in the purser's office on C deck.
But I don't like you to leave me.
Oh, now look here, dear. You don't think I'm going to disappear, do you?
I suppose I don't really. When I get these ideas, and I can't help it, Ricky, I wish you'd wallop me.
Well, I'm not going to wallop you, Anne, but you've got to stop being afraid. You certainly won't disappear in a crowded ship with any number of people all around you. As for me, I defy Houdini himself to make me vanish.
Don't talk like that.
I'm not going to vanish, and neither is this cabin, dear. Now, run along. I'll join you on deck as soon as I can.
All right, Ricky. I'll be good.
In with your gangplank! In with your gangplank! Gangplank 379!
Close the rails. Stand by.
Eager people, excited people, happy people, all crowding up to the rail to wave goodbye. Nothing to worry about, nothing on their minds except...
Except what?
Oh,
Except seasickness, madam?
oh,
Oh, I beg your pardon. I hadn't meant to startle you, believe me.
please don't mention it. How silly of me. It was my fault. I haven't been very well.
I noticed it, madam, if you'll forgive me. That was why I spoke to you. As you see by my uniform, I'm the ship's doctor.
This is a British ship, isn't it? But you don't sound British.
No, I'm an Austrian, madam. Dr. Paul Heinrich, at your service. I'm not very popular in my own country today. Days of colored shirts and vacant minds.
I'm Mrs. Brewster, Doctor, Ann Brewster. When does the ship go?
In about a second, Mrs. Brewster, you will hear the whistle, then the band will strike up, all langs in, and then...
We're moving, aren't we?
Yes? Don't you feel the vibration of the engine?
Goodbye, Tommy. Take care of yourself while I'm
So long, dear. I'll see you at Christmas.
Whoa! The key to the car's in the living room table drawer. If you go out with any blocks, Tommy, I'll kill you when I get back. Bye,
The living room, Susie. Yes, dear. Of course I'll behave myself in Paris. Say, what time does the bar open aboard this time, huh?
I imagine this is not your first crossing, madam.
Oh, I'm afraid it is, Dr. Heinrich. My husband's crossed many times, he tells me, but not on this ship.
Well, then I hope you're a good sailor.
Why, Dr. Heinrich?
Well, because we'll run into some very dirty weather once we are out at sea. October is a very bad month for traveling.
Well, if I do get seasick, Doctor, I'll rush straight to you, and I'll expect to be cured.
Let me tell you a secret, madam. There are two common ailments for which medical science has no cure. One is ordinary seasickness, and the other is hangover. Tomorrow morning I shall be dealing with both.
And enjoying it?
Oh, no. Sympathizing with it. That's all I can do. How do you like the Mauravania?
Oh, it's a magnificent ship from what I've seen of it. And you know they've given us a very nice cabin down on B deck, B13. What's the matter? Why are you looking at me like that?
I beg your pardon. Did you say B13?
Yes. Why not?
You're quite sure of that, madam?
Why, yes, of course I'm sure of it. I saw the number on the door. Why not?
Well, because
Go on, Dr. Heinrich.
there's no such cabin aboard a ship. I'm not joking, Mrs. Brewster. You see, some people are superstitious. Many ships, like this one, omit number 13 on each deck. You must have been mistaken.
What are you trying to tell me? Do you think I saw something that wasn't there?
No, Mrs. Brewster, not at all.
Then come along with me. I'll show you. I'll prove to you that there is a number 13. Will you come along?
Yes, Mrs. Brewster? I think perhaps I had better escort you.
Stewardess!
Yes, miss. Yes, ma'am. Come in straight away.
Tell me, stewardess, this is B-deck, isn't it?
B-deck, ma'am? Why, yes, ma'am. No doubt about that.
Dr. Heinrich and I have been all over this part of the ship looking for cabin number 13, but we don't...
I've been trying to convince this lady stewardess that there's no such cabin number 13 on this ship.
Why, there sure to heaven isn't, ma'am. And never has been. I've served aboard the Mauravania a matter of 8 years, and I ought to know.
But I tell you, I saw it. I was in there. It was a big cabin with a private bathroom attached. The walls were paneled in light oak, and the furniture was rosewood and yellow satin, and the portholes were like real windows.
No, that's not much good, ma'am.
No, I'm afraid not. Most of the cabins hereabouts look like that. May I ask you, what name was the cabin booked in?
Brewster, naturally. Mr. and Mrs. Richard E. Brewster.
Here, let's have a look on my list. No. No, there's no Brewster here, ma'am.
I tell you, I was in there. They even delivered the luggage. I saw it.
Excuse me, ma'am, but I had a look-see in all the cabins I'm in charge of, just to see if the passengers wanted anything. And I don't remember any luggage with a Brewster label on it.
Wait a minute. There may be a partial explanation of this.
Ah, you see, that's better, Mrs. Brewster. I was hoping you might find one.
Ricky, that's my husband. Ricky and I have only been married a very short time, and When my maid printed the baggage labels, she must have made them out in my maiden name. I never noticed at the time.
Oh, what name might that be, ma'am?
Thornton. Anne-Marie Thornton.
Oh, Lord, miss. Now, why couldn't you have said that before? I remember it well. 2 silk cases and a little trunk. They're in B16 now.
Where's B16?
Right behind you, miss. You're standing practically in front of the door.
Oh, thank goodness. Oh, yes, but, what about my husband's luggage?
There's no gentleman's luggage in that cabin, miss. Your husband's or any other gentleman's, if you know what I mean.
I won't stand for this. Where's Ricky? What have you done with Ricky?
Please, Mrs. Brewster. There's one easy way to settle this.
Settle it? How?
Just look down the corridor. You notice the man coming towards us? The man with the 2 gold stripes around the sleeve?
Well?
That's Mr. Marshall, our second officer. Did you ever see him before?
Yes. Yes, of course I have. He was standing at the top of the gangplank when Rick and I got aboard.
Exactly. So he might be able to tell us something.
Oh.
Mr. Marshall? Mr. Marshall?
Yes, Doctor, what's up?
Would you mind coming here for a moment?
Well, not at all, old boy. Always glad to oblige a chap who may have to cut me up at any moment. What may I do for you?
Take a good look at this young lady. And tell me, have you seen her before?
Seen her before? My dear chap, if I had overlooked, young lady will pardon me, I know, a passenger as charming as this lady is, I would be less of the gentleman than I fancy myself.
You saw her coming aboard tonight?
Oh, yes, certainly.
And, of course, you saw the gentleman who was with her.
The gentleman who was with her?
Yes!
Oh, but there was nobody with her, old boy.
You're quite certain of that, Mr. Marshall?
Oh, my dear doctor, she was the last of them to come aboard. I'll take my Bible oath there was no other passenger with her, or ahead of her, or behind her, if it comes to that.
You're lying to me.
Please, Mrs. Brewster, lower your voice.
I know what it is. It's the old Paris trick, like in the story. But you won't get away with it, do you hear?
Now, look here, madam.
I'll go to the purser, I'll go to the captain. Oh, dear Father in heaven, won't anybody believe me?
Later that night, in the captain's room just abaft the bridge, there is a conference of ship's officers. Outside, stung by spray clinging to the bulkhead rail in the dark, a frightened girl waits until the door of the cabin's room opens.
Will you bring the young lady in, Dr. Hadley, and close the door?
Yes, sir. Here we are. This is Captain Wainwright. Now, just tell your story straightforwardly, and please don't excite yourself.
Well, maybe we can get some decision into this matter. Will you sit down here beside my desk, Miss Thornton?
My name is Brewster, Captain. Mrs. Ann Brewster.
Whatever you say, Mrs. Brewster.
Thank you very much, Captain.
I might tell you, ma'am, I've got a lot on my mind already. The first officer comes aboard with an attack of flu. I'm facing an equinoctial gale short-handed, and now this has to happen on top of it.
I'm terribly sorry I can't help that, Captain. But I want to know what they've done with Ricky.
Just one moment, please, while I get this straight. So this time I understand you yourself have personally interviewed practically every single passenger aboard this ship. Is that true?
Yes, it's true.
But your alleged husband is not here. Is that true?
Yes, that's true,
In
but
the meantime, the purser has sent a squad of men to search this ship. They've searched every inch of it. You can take my word for that. There's nobody hidden. Your husband's not here. According to Mr. Marshall, who's standing over there...
I see him.
According to Mr. Marshall, he never was here.
Oh, hang it all, Miss Thornton. You needn't glare at me like that. We couldn't see the chap. He wasn't there, now could we?
Be quiet, Mr. Marshall.
Yes, I'm sorry.
No, I'm not unreasonable, Mrs. Brewster. I think you'll admit that. But what can I do? What can I say? Can you offer any proof, even, that this husband of yours ever existed?
Proof? Yes, of course I can.
Excuse me for interrupting, but would you mind, Captain, if we ask a question or two?
No, Doctor, go ahead. I tell you, I'm going daft myself.
If you were married, Mrs. Brewster, you must be carrying a joint husband and wife passport. Where is that?
Well, there wasn't time to get one. We each carried our own passport.
Oh, I see. But still, there must be someone back in America who can confirm what you say if we got in touch by radio telephone. Your parents, for instance.
I haven't got any parents. They're dead.
What about relatives, then, or a guardian?
My guardian is a trust company. The administrators don't even know I'm married.
But somebody must have performed the ceremony of marriage. The parson, the justice of peace.
Yes, of course, but... Oh, I can't remember the name of the town.
You don't remember the name of the town?
Hold tight to your chair, Mrs. Brewster. The ship is going to pitch again.
How's the glass looking, Mr. Marshal?
Barometer's rising, sir. This weather won't hold long. We shall be into fog before morning, though.
We're in a fog now, if you ask me. This lady says she
I'm terribly sorry, but I'm trying to think of it. It was a little town in upstate New York where they can marry you at a moment's notice. Ricky kept the certificate. I was confused. I haven't been well.
No, you haven't.
You see, Ricky had been away, and he came back, and I was in love with him, and he sort of swept me off my feet, and... Oh, what's the use?
Not much use, apparently.
If you'll take my advice, ma'am, you'll go below to your cabin and get some sleep. I'll send the doctor down to mix you a sedative.
You think I'm crazy, don't you?
I think you're a little overwrought, ma'am.
What I can't understand is why. Why should you want to do this? It can't be the bubonic plague this time.
Bubonic plague, ma'am? Who said anything about the bubonic plague?
Never mind. But I'll show you. You're all against me, except maybe the doctor. But I'll show you. I'll prove it to you. I am going downstairs, and I don't want anybody to follow me. Good night. Good night, all of you.
Well, I'm glad that's over.
Look here, Mr. Marshal.
Huh?
You think it's quite safe to trust her out there alone?
Well, I don't know, sir. She's mad as a hatter, if you ask me.
You think she might do something foolish?
Well, I think she might chuck herself overboard if we're not careful.
What's your opinion, Doctor?
I can give you my opinion, gentlemen, in a very few words. That girl is as sane as you are.
What's that?
Wait and hear what I have to say. I shared your own belief at first, but I've been talking to her all evening. I've heard her whole story, and there's not a psychopathic trait in her nature. She firmly believes in this husband.
Yes, Doctor. A lot of people firmly believe they're Napoleon, but they get tossed into loony bins, just the same.
This matter is not a joke, Mr. Marshal. I tell you, this man exists. Or did exist.
What do you mean, Doctor?
I suppose he has been murdered. Perhaps he has been murdered and thrown overboard.
Murdered? Thrown overboard?
If you remember, Richard Brewster was carrying a very large sum of money in cash. His wife's wedding gifts. Practically all her inheritance. He meant to go to the purser's office. But he never got there. That money might have been a great temptation.
To whom?
To a stewardess, perhaps, or even to a ship's officer.
Just exactly what are you getting at?
Well, numbers on doors can be changed easily enough. Just print a small card and put it on the metal slot on the door.
I still want to know what you're driving at.
If you use your intelligence, gentlemen, I think you will understand how a man can be made to vanish into thin air. And why Mr. Marshall saw never another passenger. You still don't see it?
No, I do not.
Well, then listen, and I'll explain exactly how a situation like this...
4 o'clock in the morning. 4 o'clock, the hour of suicides and bad dreams. The gale has subsided, the sea is calm. The SS Mauravania creeps blindly at barely 8 knots through a thick and strangling fog. The whole ship is dark, sealed up in sleep. There's no sound in all that mournful dimness, except when the foghorn cries out a warning overhead. Even cabin B-16 is dark. Anne Brewster, still fully dressed, lies restlessly across one of the berths, her head almost touching the inter-cabin telephone.
What was... Oh, I thought I heard... Telephone. Yes? Hello?
It's me, Anne. Take it easy now.
Ricky! Ricky, where are you?
Quiet. Keep your voice down.
Where are you, Ricky? What happened to you? Are you hurt?
No, I'm not hurt, but he nearly got me.
Who nearly got you?
Listen, dear. I can't explain over the phone, and I don't dare go down there. Can you meet me up on deck?
Yes, of course. Where?
Do you know the boat deck?
Boat deck? Which one is that?
The top deck, where all the lifeboats are slung.
Oh, yes, I know it.
Well, go to the starboard side.
Yes?
That's the right-hand side, facing forward. Find the fourth lifeboat from the aft companionway.
Yes.
There's a thick fog and nobody will see us.
Ricky. What is it? Ricky! He's gone. He's gone.
Excuse me, miss, but I thought I heard somebody talking in here.
Stewardess, what are you doing up at this time of the night?
If I might ask, miss, what are you doing up and dressed? Oh, you ought to get some sleep, miss. You really ought.
It might interest you to know, stewardess, that I've just been talking to my husband.
Now, look here, miss. Don't start that all over again. Please don't start that all over again.
You all pretended to think I was mad, didn't you? And you nearly drove me mad. Ricky's beaten the whole crowd of you, and I'm going out on deck to meet him now.
Out on deck, miss.
That's what I said. Where's my coat?
Don't go out there, miss. Not in the state of mind you're in. And the fog's so thick, you can't hardly see your hand in front of your face.
Stand away from the door, please.
Suppose, miss, I didn't want to let you go out there.
I don't think that would matter much. You've probably heard that mad people have 10 times ordinary strength, and I'm stronger than you anyway.
Miss, I'm a begging you.
Stand away from that door. One, two, third.
Anne, is that you?
Yes. Ricky. Ricky, darling, where are you?
Here, duck your head under the lifeboat. You take my hand.
But isn't it horribly dangerous out there on the edge? There's no railing along the side of the ship.
Don't worry, Anne. I won't let you fall. Look out! Oh, went overboard here. We're well aft near the propellers. The suction would carry into the propeller blades and... Listen.
I can't hear anything except the foghorn.
Yeah, but I can. There's somebody walking along the deck. And I can see a flashlight moving in the fog.
You're quite right, my friend. You can see a flashlight moving in the fog.
Dr. Heinrich, what are you doing here?
At the moment, young lady, I'm covering both of you with a revolver. Please don't move.
So, you were in the conspiracy, Dr. Heinrich.
May I ask you what conspiracy?
The whole ship's conspiracy to say Richard Brewster didn't exist.
My dear young lady, you can set your mind at rest. There never was any ship's conspiracy against you. The people you spoke to were perfectly honest.
Including Mr. Marshall, I suppose.
Yes, including Mr. Marshall.
And what is this all
Stand
about?
back there.
I suppose he was telling the truth when he said nobody came up the gangplank before or after me.
I beg your pardon. That was not what he said. He said no passenger came up the gangplank at this time.
Well, what's the difference?
A great crime is arranged for tonight, young lady. No less a crime than murder.
Murder? Who's going to be murdered?
You are.
What?
That, I repeat, is a scheme. But there is no conspiracy and only one criminal.
Oh. And who is the criminal?
The criminal is the man standing beside you. Your so-called husband.
Ricky? You don't know what you're saying.
I think I do. Marshall, of course, did see someone walk up the gangplank, loitering behind you. But he never dreamt of associating the person in any way with you. He saw a ship's officer returning from shore leave in civilian clothes.
A ship's officer?
Yes. That man you call your husband, his name isn't Richard Brewster. His real name is Blaney. And he's the first officer of the Mauravania.
Are you trying to tell me
the
that
captain can identify him. He's actually British, though he can fake an American accent very well. He has already got a wife in England, and he's planning to join her with the $10,000 he got from you.
I don't believe it. I don't. Ricky, why don't you say something?
Oh, he planned it very cleverly, I must admit. He never let you know he was ship's officer, did he? He's been away for some time, naturally, so he persuaded you to marry him in a hurry.
Ricky, is this true?
He has the money, you see. All he did was hang a dummy number on the cabin door, remove it later, put on his uniform, and walk away with his own luggage.
But Captain Wainwright told us that the first officer had come aboard tonight with...
With a bad attack of flu, yes. Our friend couldn't be seen in public until after he disposed of you. The best thing was to convince everybody you were insane, as he did. Then, when you went overboard tonight...
They would all believe it was suicide.
Exactly. But I began to suspect this Brewster because you quoted him as telling such an obvious lie. He said he had never traveled in the Mauravania, yet he could direct you all over the ship and even knew where the purser's office was. So I went to his cabin, found it empty, searched, and found your $10,000.
Look out, Dr. Henry!
Put it down, you fool! Put it down!
Oh! He's overboard. You shot him. You shot him.
Those shots, my dear, never touched him.
Never touched him.
No. The weight of the iron carried him over backwards when he lifted it. It was the weight he was going to use to sink your body.
Ricky! The propellers! The ship's propellers!
Yes, they suck you under.
Oh, Doctor. Doctor, I can't stand this.
It won't be easy, my dear. It won't be easy, I know, but believe me, this way is better.
And so closes Cabin B-13, starring Margot and Philip Dorn. Tonight's tale of Suspense. With our two stars tonight were Dennis Hoy as Captain Wainwright and William Johnstone as Ricky Brewster. This is the Man in Black who conveys to you Columbia's invitation to spend this half hour in suspense with us again next week, same time, when our star will be one of the screen year's most sensational newcomers, Mr. Gene Kelly. Mr. Kelly will be supported by Hans Conried and William Johnstone. The producer and director of Suspense is William Spear, who with Lud Gluskin and Lucian Morawick, conductor and composer, and John Dixon Carr, the author, collaborated on tonight's Suspense.
Suspense fans, please note that these programs will shortly move to different days of the week. Suspense will come to listeners in Eastern and Central time zones on Thursdays, beginning December the 2nd, and to Mountain and Pacific time zone listeners on Monday, beginning December the 6th. Remember, Thursday, beginning December the 2nd in Eastern and Central time zone, and Mondays, beginning December the 6th in the Pacific and Mountain time zones for Suspense. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
That was Cabin B-13 as originally heard November 9th, 1943. And that wraps up hour number 1 of our New Year's Eve special. Classic Radio Rewind will return with hour number 2 right after these very important words. Welcome back to Classic Radio Rewind and hour number 2. In this next classic suspense episode, a wayward son, recently released from prison, returns home not out of remorse or a desire to reconnect, but with the sole intention of extracting money from his mother. From February 17th, 1944, this is Life Ends at Midnight.
Suspense. The Columbia Broadcasting System brings you radio's outstanding theater of thrills, produced and directed by Anton M. Leader, and starring tonight, Miss Fay Bainter, in Life Ends at Midnight by Robert Tallman. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense. Nurtured in the cradle and carried to the grave, the love of a mother for her child is an emotion all-pervasive, all-forgiving. Of all human relationships, this one which we celebrate on Mother's Day is among the strongest, most lasting. And for most of us, raised in the comfort and security of a happy home, no emotional tie is more warm and welcome. But there are some few mothers for whom Mother's Day represents no joyful memories, no warmth, no tenderness. Instead, there's heartbreak and regret, unhappiness, even terror. Such a mother is the woman of our story tonight, Mrs. Bates. A poor, worn woman, kindly, gentle, forgiving, resigned, but not without spirit. The story's setting? A miserable tenement apartment in the slum section of a large city. The time, today. And now, with the performances of Miss Fay Bainter as Mrs. Bates, Tony Barrett as Walter Bates, and Norman Field as Mr. Chalmers, and with Robert Tallman's story, Life Ends at Midnight, we again hope to keep you in suspense.
That's right, Mom. Your little sonny boy, Walter. Remember my whistle, huh?
Yes, but, well, I didn't know.
Never know when I'll turn up, huh, Ma? What's the matter? Do we have to stand out here in the hall?
Oh, no. Come in. It's just that... Come in, Walt.
Same old crummy joint.
I do my best to keep it clean, Walt.
Yeah, I know. Regular old Mother Hubbard, huh? You'll have to clean up the whole south of Chicago before you get the filth out of this flea bag. Oh, boy, I'm tired. Up all night in a stinking day coach full of snoring jerks and squalling babies. And babies, they're the worst. All they do is bawl and slobber.
You left Pittsburgh last night?
1 in the morning. Didn't sleep a wink. Look at that collar, will you?
But tomorrow is Monday, and you have to be at work in the morning.
Sure. What's the matter? You worried?
Oh, no, I just...
Then don't just. Can't a guy come home to see his mother once in 6 months? That's a mother for you. You break your back, you sit up all night to see your mother, but one day she tells you you have to be at work in the morning. How do you like that?
I'm sorry, dear. I did miss you so, but I just worried about...
Yeah, I know. Don't worry so much, huh? It makes me nervous.
Here, dear. Sit at the table. You must be starved.
Well... All right. Now it's like coming home.
Oh, my baby. I'm so glad to see you. You did come just to see me, didn't you?
Who else? Hetty Lamar?
Of course you came to see me. It's just that I always worry so about you,
Forget it. What's these?
I was just making a chop for my lunch. That's all I seem to have in the house right now.
That'll be enough for me.
It should be ready in a minute. Now, tell me all about yourself. Your job.
Never mind about me. Come on. Sit down, Mama.
All right.
How you doing, huh?
Well, I try not to complain, Walter, but things are not easy. Prices high, rents going up all the time, even on this old house. Honest, I don't know what I'm going to do if...
You had some bonds Papa left you. You had about $2,000 bonds he left you. You still
I'm
got
trying to tell you, Walter, things haven't been easy, and I just...
Always the poor mouth. Every time I see her, she's putting on a poor mouth.
I'm just saying that things aren't easy.
And for me, you think it's a picnic, huh? I got enough trouble, and for what? All year, work like crazy, and for what?
A man must work, Walter.
A man must work, Walter.
Yes, it's true. A man must work and live like a person and not be afraid so that he can sleep at night without worrying about...
About what?
About a bell ringing at night or a knock on the door in the morning or someone touching you on the arm. Oh, yes. It's a nice feeling and a free feeling to be able to walk down the street in the sun with your eyes meeting another man's without wondering if he's...
Shut up! I ain't in trouble again, so stop mouthing at me. Always mouthing at me.
Gavin, now you know what the judge said the last time, Walter. He was nice. He gave you another chance. He saw you were a really good boy, and he gave you another chance. He got a nice job for you, and you promised to. You mustn't. You're all right, Walter. You didn't do it.
A herring on a plate. All your life, you're a tomcat in the garbage. Find a fish head and say, thank you, mister. Not for me. You take a chance, you throw away the fish heads. You get one break, you're out of the garbage can for life. You're through with time clocks and shiny pants. You're in the higher brackets, nobody gets at you. You're a mister with a future. You hold your nose when you walk through the day coach to your compartment. You leave the stinks behind and the porter dusts the air in front of you. That's for me. One break, you're hot as a rocket, shooting diamonds for sparks. You're a jet job in a world full of flivvers. A buck gets you two, two gets you four.
Walter.
Good for one blonde to kick her or to kiss her.
Walter!
So, all right, I took another chance. I tried to run it up, but no dice. I gotta make it good. Tomorrow morning, I gotta make it good. The books at the office will show. I gotta make it good.
How much?
$1,500.
$1,500.
By midnight tonight, $1,500. I miss that 12:20 train for Pittsburgh. It's all up. Might as well take gas.
$1,500 by midnight tonight. Where am I going to get it, Walter?
The bonds. You got the bonds Papa left?
The bonds. How do you think I got you out of your last trouble? Bribes, bail, paying back, every penny. Where do you think I got it?
Don't give me that. You're holding out. You gotta help me.
I'll give you my life, Walter.
Oh.
Walter, please, don't.
I'll get 10 years. You heard the judge last time.
What can I do? What?
10 years in stir. There won't be no reform school this time. Think it over, will you?
Walter.
Oh, please get me the money. Mama, get it for me. I'll be good. I'll work hard. I won't give you no more trouble, but help me now. Please, Mama,
Where can I get it, Walter? I've nothing left, nothing.
I don't care where you get it. It's your fault. You gotta help me. I only wanted to help you, and now I don't know.
Yes, it is my fault. I've always protected you. But I can't protect you anymore. I'll give you the few dollars I have. Go away. It'll be enough to help you run away. That's all I can do.
Not me. I ain't gonna spend the rest of my life being no clay pigeon. Sure. Run away.
Walter,
don't
please,
bother me.
Don't.
Huh?
Don't. You're hurting my
I'm no
arm,
dope. I know you're holding out on me. You're worrying about your old age, making yourself a cushy setup.
I'm sorry. I hope I'm not intruding.
Who's this?
Oh, Mr. Chalmers. This is Mr. Chalmers, Walter. He has the back bedroom. This is my son, Walter, Mr. Chalmers.
How do you do, Mr. Bates? I feel that I know you very well. Your mother and I sit here in the kitchen sometimes over a cup of tea, and she talks about you for hours and hours. Yes, I can see why Mother's so proud of you. How do you do, Mr. Bates? Yes, and you're a fine-looking young man.
Yeah?
Mrs. Bates, if you'll excuse me, I'm just going to the corner for my paper. I think that little man with the tiny mustache, you know who I mean? The insurance agent. I think he might call again to collect. Please tell him to go away. You will do that for me, Mrs. Bates?
Yes, Mr. Chalmers.
Thank you, Mrs. Bates. Tell him not to come back anymore. I don't want to pay any more on the policy. You remember, I told you my nephew was very sick in Spokane?
Yes, Mr. Chalmers.
Well, the poor young man died. Yes. I was going to leave him a few dollars when I died, but now, well, I have no one left at all, and, well, $1 a week. You'll tell that to the little man with the tiny mustache?
Yes, Mr. Chalmers.
Thank you, Mrs. Bates. Good day, Mr. Bates.
I have $40 in the house for rent. You can take that.
Yeah.
Drop me a card when you get settled someplace. Let me know where you are. I'll send you some more as soon as I get it. Maybe later I'll be able to straighten it out. Maybe later I'll be able to speak to your boss. I'll promise to pay back every cent. But now you must go away. You must.
Mama, tell me something about Mr. Chalmers. He interests me very strangely.
Walter.
Don't be so nervous, Ma. We got plenty of time. We got till midnight.
Yes, I do think I will have another cup, if you don't mind, Mrs. Bates.
Now, suppose you look at it this way. Huh? You've been paying $1 a week for, how many years now?
Well, I'd say 20 years would be a conservative estimate.
All right. 20 years, that's, let me see, $50 a year. Say that's, $1,000 that you paid in.
Yes, $1,000. This coffee cake, Mrs. Bates, is excellent.
Do you like it? I made it yesterday when
Forget the coffee cake. Yeah. Now, let's figure percentage, huh? How many more years you figure to live?
Walter!
Oh, that's all right, Mrs. Bates. After all, I am an old man, and at my age, one rather, well, comes to terms with death. It's like the end of a long, busy day. Life ends at midnight. and a new day begins. Yes, Walter, I think you're on the verge of making a very profound observation. My policy is for $2,500, and in the days that are left to me, I certainly will not be required to pay in as much as I've already paid.
Well, that's the exact point, Mr. Chalmers. And if you drop it now, will you get anything back? No. You got a straight life with no cash value. If you drop the policy now, the insurance company's the winner. But say that you live another couple of years, you pay a couple of hundred more, and you leave that $2,500 to somebody. Which is the smart thing? I leave it to you.
Yes, I should like to think that when I'm gone, I have left something behind for someone. Mr. Chalmers, oh yes, I'll always remember him for this. It's nice to live on in somebody's memory for a little while after we are dead. But A, Mr. Bates, I have no one in this world. And B, I must be very, very frank with you and tell you that I can no longer afford to pay even the $1 a week. You see, I live on
That's
a very...
a problem of the most minor importance. For anybody to invest in you now, $1 a week would be gilt-edged. I mean, for instance, take my mother here.
Yes?
Now, suppose that you made her the beneficiary. Now, suppose she continued to pay the $1 a week, eh? Now, who could lose on such a deal? Who can lose? Nobody. You see, you'll get your dearest wish to leave something behind, and my mother in later years says, Mr. Chalmers, oh, yes, I'll always remember him for this. You get the point?
Oh, no, I couldn't.
Oh,
Why, it's...
why not? Why not? It's simple.
Oh, no, Mr. Chalmers,
Let
no, you
Mr.
must...
Chalmers decide. Mr. Chalmers, it makes good sense, no? It makes everybody happy, huh?
Oh, but we're practically strangers now.
What do you mean, strangers? Who is a stranger in this world, Mr. Chalmers? We're all just little people trying to make each other happy, huh? Mr. Chalmers here can die feeling that he didn't waste $1 a week for 20 years, and he'll know that he'll live in your memory, Mama. That's what he wants. Why shouldn't he have it? Ain't every man entitled to at least live in somebody's memory?
Yes, but Mr. Chalmers doesn't have to do that. I'll think about him anyway. I promise I
So
will.
let him say something, always at mouthing. Oh, what do you say, Mr. Chalmers?
That must be the little man with the tiny mustache. I'll tell him I'm keeping the policy and changing the beneficiary.
Wow.
Could you let me have the $1, Mrs. Bates?
Hey, hurry it up, will you? The old man's coming home in a minute or two. He takes his nap about this time. I want this ready for him.
Relax, Sonny. I can't finish this job today.
What are you giving me?
It'll take a joint and another length of pipe.
Fix it up. You can fix it up for now, can't you?
Well, this room's pretty small. Why do you want the heater so close to the bed?
Like I told you, he's got rheumatism. He needs plenty of heat.
Well, I can run a rubber extension. But with gas, I don't like it.
Okay, so with gas, you don't like it. But with gas, we got to run this heater. The old man's got rheumatics. He can take plenty of gas.
Huh?
Hey, heat, I mean. He needs plenty. What are you doing now?
Tightening this joint.
It's tight enough here. Here's your $3.
Okay. You're the boss.
Bring your tools next time, huh?
There won't be any next time, Sonny.
What are you giving me now?
You can get somebody else to do your dirty work after this. So long, Skippy.
Skippy. Come on, Skippy. Pull yourself together. We got work to do. Hiya, Pa.
Well, this is a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, this used to be my room. Steam don't come up here so good, so I talked the old lady into fixing this up for you.
That was very thoughtful of you, Walter.
Oh, thanks. I stuffed the cracks in the windows, too. Zero weather gets plenty drafty in this room.
You thought of everything, didn't you, Walter?
Huh? Oh, yeah. Yeah, it ought to work out just fine.
It'll do the job, I think. I'm going to take a little nap before dinner. Do you think the heater...
Just leave it on. I'll look in after bed to see if it's okay.
Well, now, you needn't go to all
no
that...
trouble at all, Mr. Chalmers. When I do a thing, I like to do it right.
Huh? Who's there? Oh, that's you, Walter?
Yeah. Yeah, go on back to sleep, Pop. Just turn the heater off, will you? Get a little stuffy in here.
You're a good, considerate boy, Walter.
Skip it. Go on, back to sleep.
Please, don't walk so fast, Walter. My feet are hurting me again.
You can buy new shoes tomorrow.
I'd like to know what with.
Maybe you'll have dough tomorrow. Maybe we'll both have dough.
If a miracle happened.
Maybe miracles do happen. Maybe. If you're smart.
Where are you taking me to, Walter?
No place particular. I just thought we'd stroll around the old neighborhood like old times.
Well, that's a nice idea, Walter. But my feet are...
Okay. So we'll turn in at the candy store in the corner, and I'll buy you a dish of ice cream.
So close to dinner time, dear.
Trouble with you, Mars, you're in a rut. Come on.
Howdy, Miss Bates.
Hello.
Howdy, Walter. When'd you get back?
He came in on the train from Pittsburgh, Nick, this morning, just to see me.
Yeah, I thought I'd give the old girl a break.
Walter.
Well, what can I mix up for you folks, huh?
Mom will take vanilla, and I want coffee. Black.
Coming right up.
Evening, Nick.
Oh, hello, Mike. Take a load off your feet. You folks know Officer Flanagan, Miss Bates from down the block and her son Walter?
Pleased to meet you, officer.
How's business, Copper?
Oh, much the same. Vagrancy, petty larceny, once in a while a murder.
Murder?
Well, that's what they start out to do, but it's harder to pull off a murder than most people think.
Yeah.
A case just last week over in the next precinct. Family disconnected a gas heater in the old man's room while he was asleep. And that's what we were pretty sure he did anyway. They took out a lot of insurance on him a few days before.
But you couldn't prove anything, huh?
Didn't have to. They always bungle somewhere. Amateurs. Gas petered out. They forgot to put a quarter in the meter. 7 o'clock. Sure, I got to call in. See you later, Nick.
Okay, Michael.
Ma,
Yes, Walter.
when did you put a quarter in the meter at home?
Oh, I don't remember. Goodness, I'd better get some change.
Never mind. Come on, we're getting out of here.
What's the matter, Walter?
Nothing. Come on.
Walter, why did you ask about the gas meter?
Why do you think?
Walter, you didn't... That isn't why you put the heater in Mr.
What do you think?
I don't think anything. I just pray that quarter ran out
Save
before...
your prayers and get a move on. Because if that didn't work, I'll try another way. Either that old cluck is dead before midnight, or I spent 10 years in stir. He's gonna be dead before midnight. Do you understand that? You try making any trouble, you'll be pushing daisies right along with him. Stop that sniveling. We're going in there now. If it took, scream your head off, or I'll give you a reason to scream.
The gas. I can smell it.
Come on.
Oh.
Well, good evening, Walter, Mrs. Bates. I was just on my way out.
Oh, Mr. Chalmers, you're all right. You're all right.
Of course he's all right. What's eating you?
I have a slight headache, it's true, but a brisk walk in the open air will cure that, I'm sure.
Hey, look at this, will you?
What is it, Walter?
The hose on the heater, it got unhitched. No wonder you got a headache.
Oh.
I thought I smelled gas.
Pop, it's lucky for you that Ma forgot to put a quarter in the meter.
Providence works in strange ways, doesn't it, Walter? Well, I must be getting on. Mrs. Bates.
Yes?
I'll be coming home rather late, so I'll just let myself in.
How late?
Well, I thought I'd stop in at the neighborhood picture house after dinner. That'll be around 9 o'clock, so I imagine I won't be home much before 11.
Mr. Chalmers, there's something
Yes, Mrs. Bates?
Walter's a good boy at heart, you know. But he's been in some trouble lately,
Is there anything I can do to help, Walter?
Yeah, plenty. I'll tell you all about it when you get back. You better run along now, Mr. Chalmers. You don't want to be late for that picture.
Yes, of course. Well, good night, Mrs. Bates.
Mr. Chalmers.
Good night, Mr. Chalmers.
Yes, good night.
Walter! 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 Oh, Walter! I'm your mother, Walter! Oh.
You were going to tell him, weren't you? You'd like to send me to the chair, wouldn't you?
Oh, you struck your own mother.
You ought to messed your sad monkey face up for good. It's your fault I pulled this thing up in the first place. How did you remember to put a quarter in that gas meter? Why didn't you?
I'm glad I forgot he wouldn't be alive.
You shouldn't have messed around with the gas, trying to spare your feelings, make it look like an accident. The thanks I get for it, she wants to blab the whole thing, turn me in, my own mother.
No, Walter, that's not true.
Oh,
Don't, please. Don't hit me again, Walter. I can't stand it.
All right. Maybe now you'll cooperate. Look, let's put it this way. It's either you or him.
Oh.
If it's you, I don't care whether they get me or not. Are you listening to me?
Yes, Walter.
All right. Now, like I said, I got very little time to get this thing done. I ought to have done a neat clean in the first place, like I said. He's old, he's weak. Just push him over on the bed, hold a pillow on his face for a few minutes, and the job is done. Nobody'd ask any questions, a guy that old.
Walter, for the last time, I beg you.
All right, you just make sure it's the last time. Remember, like I said, it's you or him.
What are you going to do?
I'll be waiting in his room when he gets home. You wait up for him. Tell him I've left to catch a train. That's in case he suspects anything. When he comes into his room, I'll take care of the rest of it.
How do you know I won't warn him?
Because it's you or him, just like I told you. I don't think you'll warn Mr. Chalmers. Don't you try to stall him when he comes in. He's got to be dead by midnight, or else.
Evening. Evening, Mr. Chalmers.
Joe, I'll have the late edition of the Daily News as usual.
Save one out for you, Mr. Chalmers.
Thank you. Good night, Joe.
Night.
Oh, by the way, Joe, I almost forgot. Can you give me the change of $1?
Oh, sure, Mr. Chalmers. Here you are. 50, 75, 85, 90, $1.
Thank you. I just happened to think of something I need change for. A little good deed for a friend of mine.
No. Oh, Mr. Chalmers.
Well, I didn't think you'd be up so late, Mrs. Bates.
I waited up especially. I wanted to talk to you about Walter.
Mrs. Bates, your eye, it's all discolored.
Oh, yes. Well, the light burned out in the bathroom, and when I went to replace it in the dark, that is, I bumped into the door.
Now, I would have thought Walter would have done that for you.
Oh, no, Walter didn't. I mean, Walter's left already. He had to catch the 12:20 for Pittsburgh, you know.
But it's only a little after 11 now.
Perhaps he had some things to do on the way, I mean.
Of course. Well, I'm afraid I must be getting on to bed.
No, not yet. I mean, won't you sit down for a minute? Have a cup of tea with me?
I'd like to, but tea keeps me awake, Mrs. Bates. No, I'll be getting along to my room now, if you don't mind.
No, don't go into that room, Mr. Chalmers.
Why, Mrs. Bates, whatever's the trouble?
My son Walter. There's something I must tell you.
Oh, forgive me, Mrs. Bates, but I'm an old man and I need my rest. If it could possibly wait until morning.
No, it can't wait until morning. It's got to be told before midnight.
What was that? Sounds like someone moving about in the back of the house.
One of the shutters is loose. The wind.
Oh. You were saying, Mrs. Bates?
Nothing. I can't tell you after all. I'm afraid. I'm afraid to tell you.
There, Mrs. Bates. And perhaps in the morning, eh? Try to get some rest.
Oh, you're going in there now?
I think that would be the best thing to do all the way around, don't you, Mrs. Bates? Good night.
No, wait.
Mrs. Bates, What is it, Mrs. Bates?
That smell. Gas. Walter! Walter!
Why don't you lie down for a few minutes, Mrs. Bates? I'll call you when the ambulance arrives.
Listen. It's striking 12. Dead before midnight.
Poor lad. If only I hadn't remembered to go back for that change.
You did it? You put the quarter in the meter. That's what turned on the gas that killed him.
Oh, you mentioned the gas having gone off and forgetting to put a quarter in the meter, so on the way to the picture house, I just went round to the back entry and dropped the coin.
You did it.
I suppose I should have remembered about the connection being loose on the heater in my room, but I wanted to surprise you with my good deed. I didn't mean to do anything wrong, Mrs. Bates. Truly, I didn't.
You didn't do anything wrong, Mr. Chalmers. No. You didn't do anything wrong.
Our thanks to Miss Fay Bainter for her wonderful performance as Mrs. Bates, to Tony Barrett, who played Walter, and Norman Field, Mr. Chalmers.
Suspense is produced and directed by Anton M. Leader, with music under the direction of Lud Gluskin from the original score composed by Lucien Morawick. Miss Bainter will soon be seen in the Warner Brothers production, June Bride. Next week, we return with 60 Minutes, a full hour of suspense, and a story in which a boy and a girl find themselves trapped in an apartment with a dead man, with a short 4 hours to find the murderer and prove that they are innocent. How they do it, if they do it, is the intriguing question in William Irish's tenth story, Deadline at Dawn. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
That was Life Ends at Midnight from February 17th, 1944. And lastly, on Classic Radio Rewind, our final episode of Suspense and our final old-time radio episode for Classic Radio Rewind of 2024. In this episode, a tale of a man whose insatiable desire for power, position, and wealth ultimately led to his self-destruction. From March 10th, 1952, this is Suspense with A Watery Grave.
Autolite and its 96,000 dealers bring you Mr. Joseph Cotton in tonight's presentation of Suspense.
Tonight, Autolite presents the story of a man who craved power, position, and money, and destroyed himself accomplishing it. A tale we call A Watery Grave, starring Mr. Joseph Cotton.
Mr. Wilcox.
Why, it's Oscar Otto. You're looking way below par.
I feel that way, too.
Well, let Dr. Wilcox have a look. Well, Oscar, I'd say you're suffering from a case of worn-out spark plugs. Let's visit the nearest Autolite spark plug dealer. He and his exclusive Autolite plug check indicator will quickly show if I'm right.
And suppose you are.
Well, if that exclusive Autolite plug check indicator shows that your spark plugs are worn out or wrong for your style of driving, the Autolite spark plug dealer will install a bright, brisk set of ignition-engineered Autolite spark plugs to give you smoother performance, quick starts, and gas savings.
Okay, let's go. But how do I find the location of the nearest Autolite spark plug dealer?
Why, that's easy. We'll call Western Union by number and ask for operator 25. She'll gladly tell us his location. Let's go, Oscar, because from bumper to tail light, you're always right with Autolite.
And now, with A Watery Grave and the performance of Mr. Joseph Cotton, Autolite hopes once again to keep you in suspense.
How did it happen when everything was so good? How did it get destroyed in 5 short hours? How did I start to die? In our city, a district attorney is an important man. Our city is an important city in the nation. Therefore, I am important as its district attorney. The logic of law, the deductive reasoning that leads to everything. It was only reasonable that such powerful interests should have come to me. I had a case against McNeely which could have destroyed him. What is it, Mr. McNeely?
I'm not in the habit of making these calls myself, Mr. Callan.
That's obvious, but then you're not in this position very often either.
It's a daring thing you've done.
Only a question of getting a sufficiently strong case against you.
I've broken other district attorneys for attempting it.
Well, they never had the evidence I do. I don't think you'd want to try breaking me. I can send you to prison for life.
You're right. And yet, where I can't destroy you, I can prevent you from advancing, getting to a greater position, a more prominent position in political life.
What does that mean?
It means that it's no longer a question of can you be bought, but how much you want.
I've waited a long time for this moment to be able to bargain with you.
I respect your strength and perception. It's worth a great deal to me, Mr. Callan.
There's the matter of my chief witness. If I don't prosecute you, he'll go to the state district attorney, perhaps to the federal government.
And that is part of what you will give me in exchange for the wealth you're going to receive. Who is your chief witness?
I can guarantee you he'll not testify.
I would rather give myself my own guarantee on that matter.
You mean his death, wouldn't it?
Mr. Callan, all of us, any of us, even the most noble of persons must look the other way sometimes.
It's easy for you to say that. It's easy for you to do.
To look the other way becomes the easiest thing in the world after a while. All you have to know is why you're doing it and what you have to gain.
How does one look the other way? How does one achieve the facility for turning around at precisely the right moment?
A trip to Europe.
My wife has always wanted to go to Europe. She likes things like that.
His name?
Trip to Europe is something Betty's dreamed of. Spoken of it often.
His name?
Bartell.
Ah, yes. Oh, yes. My good, trusted friend, Bartell. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr. Callan.
Who was Bartell? A man from the streets who had muscled his way into life. Who was Bartell? Circumstance had made him a witness to McNeely's worst plans. Destiny had placed him in a position of value to the district attorney's office. This valueless man, Bartell. Happenstance and coincidence had made him the keeper of dark secrets and illegal events which could have smashed an empire. An empire I was now partner to merely because I told them a name and looked the other way. The first night out, I waited on deck after dinner, waited for Betty to come out, and we would go to the main saloon. Oh, it felt good to know your way in the world, to know when to look the other way. Sometimes you only have to do it once if you plan right. And Betty could have everything, a bigger house, another servant in the house, up, moving up, so secure, I didn't even hear his footsteps approaching. So positive all was going well, I didn't even think of caution. So certain of success, everything for Betty. I was so pleased.
You're the only man I ever trusted.
Bartell.
The only man, and a DA besides.
And you can still trust me.
Even after you said my name?
I'm getting rid of McNeely for you.
Are you?
You turned state's evidence. If you didn't believe I could get rid of McNeely, you wouldn't have dared turn state's evidence.
I believed you. I trusted you.
Let's stop the game.
Why did I ever think I could trust you? Now tell me, you're a smart man. You went to college.
Because it was to your advantage. Because if the law could get rid of McNeely for you, that was better.
And safer.
So don't have any illusions about trusting me. You never did. You needed me. That's different.
And you needed me. We needed each other. We still do. Nothing's different.
You're under bond, Bartell. You're leaving the country without permission.
McNeely gave me permission. He had me shot at, and I was wounded. See my shoulder? Fat on this side, fat from bandages.
You don't have a passport.
I don't need that either. I have money.
How'd you get aboard?
Oh, it's simple. Easy to stay hidden for a day. The second and third day, that's something else.
I can fix it so you won't be let off, so you'll be sent right back.
Mr. Callan, I can put you in prison if I'm sent back.
My word would prevail against yours in any court of law.
Maybe against my word alone, but not McNeely's hired gun, so both our words against yours.
You have him?
Some of my men do, yeah. He's safe at home.
Oh, I could discredit your testimony.
Ah, then why argue?
I have nothing to do with you.
You got no choice, Mr. Callan.
I'm warning you, Bartell.
Well, what do you do? Kill me? You're not the kind who thinks like that. You kill by law, the legal way.
And I'll find a way by law.
Once I'm in Europe, they have different laws.
All right. I'm a realist, Bartell.
So?
I only take calculated risks. What's your price?
I have more money than you do, Callan. You couldn't buy me.
Then what do you want?
But you have more prestige than I do. You're liked. You know your way around the talkers. Well, talk me off this ship.
You're impossible.
Find a way.
You'll be discovered before we dock.
Not if you put me up in your cabin.
Bartell, wherever I'm involved, I'll listen and meet a man halfway. But me alone, not my wife. If you involve my wife, I won't do a thing for you. Not if my wife's involved in any way, not a thing.
I'm in a squeeze, Callan. I'm finished unless you help me get into Europe. But you'll be finished with me. I got enough power for that.
I'll find a way.
All right, I'll go with you.
No. Meet me here in 1 hour. I walked away calm. I made a point of walking away confident, but my stomach felt sick. Maybe I'd thought of trying to kill him then and didn't know it. I'd been raised to respect human life. I'd been educated to be decent, to forgive. But Bartell wasn't human. He was a beast. And is there anything in the ethic which says we cannot protect our lives when attacked? Bartell was destroying me, pulling me carefully built world down about me. A world Betty must know nothing about. A world I had built to protect Betty. From law school to ward politics to assistant district attorney. It's a long way up. The hardest minds to fight, the most realistic men to please. Only the toughest stay with it. Only the toughest and shrewdest get to my position because my position leads to the highest offices if you're smart, if you look the other way. Maybe I knew I wanted to kill him then. The sea was calm. The ship wasn't pitching. Yet my stomach was sick. Half an hour was gone and still no plan. Where to go, who to turn to, what to ask, nothing, anywhere. My mind posed questions for which there were no answers. Would I lose all I owned in the world? Problems for which there were no solutions. If I lost everything, would Betty go too? Were the two things inseparable? My success and Betty?
I'll be ready in a minute. Robert, is that you? Who is it? Oh, Robert, you didn't answer.
There. Drink helps.
Helps what?
You go to the dining saloon yourself. I'll be along soon.
You mind if I ask what's wrong?
I can handle it.
Yes, of course. I'll be in the dining saloon.
Wait a minute. Come back.
All right. What is it?
You were going to leave, weren't you?
I don't understand.
You'd have left me. You saw I was troubled, very troubled, and I wanted to talk to you, but you made me ask you.
Oh, please, don't get angry, Robert. Please don't
You
argue.
always make me ask you for your attention, always, ever since we've been married.
Not always, Robert. Not ever since we were married.
Most of the time. You changed, you got quiet, you never wanted to talk about things I was doing.
You never accepted my suggestions.
You didn't understand the legal profession, the workings of law.
That's why I stopped giving
It
suggestions.
wasn't suggestions I wanted, it was encouragement to have you believe in me. But you never did. The more I gave you, the more I tried to give you, the less you seemed to care.
Oh, please.
You think
stop.
all these things come out of the sky? Do you think they were given to me? I had to fight for them. To fight to get things for you.
I never asked for them.
Oh, but you took them. You never refused them. You never said, no, I don't want a lot of clothes. No, I don't want a fur coat. You never said no.
Stop shouting. Stop. Shout.
Everything. For you. But you give nothing in return. No love or affection or like, not even liking.
Oh, stop.
Why didn't you ask for a divorce? I'll give you a divorce. Easy. Simple. Is that what you want?
Oh, I can't stand any more.
Dear.
Oh,
You're not going to leave now.
my arm.
You know why you want to divorce me? You know why you won't? Because of these comforts. And that's all you want. You'd lose them. You'd lose them overnight.
Why do you do this to me?
I've paid for everything in my life, for everything. Everything you have. Only now it's time for you to pay, too. To kill a man is the easiest thing in the world to do. To kill a man who would take your wife from you. I know the logic. I know it's wrong. Bartell wasn't taking my wife from me, but he was taking position and wealth, and those things kept my wife to me, I thought. I knew. Bartell had to be destroyed, and she would have to be partner to it. That way, she'd never leave. That way, I'd achieve everything. That's why I told her the story as if I'd memorized it, as if it was the only thing I'd ever thought about, as if Bartell's death was the last obstacle in our life.
No, Robert. Please, don't, Robert.
You'll distract him up there on the deck, at the dark place on the deck.
Don't ask me. Don't make me part of this.
Together, we plan it. Together, we need him. Together. Come on, Betty, the hour's up. Bartell's hour is up.
Is bringing you Mr. Joseph Cotton in A Watery Grave, tonight's production in radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense.
Wow, I feel great now.
Now, thanks to your Autolite spark plug dealer and his exclusive plug check indicator, Oscar.
And those new ignition-engineered Autolite spark plugs. They're right at home in my ignition system.
That's because Autolite spark plugs are designed by the same Autolite engineers who design the coil, distributor, and all the other important parts of complete ignition systems used as original equipment on many leading makes of our finest cars, trucks, and tractors.
What type Autolite spark plugs did I get, Mr. Wilcox?
The new Autolite resistor type, Oscar. They give double life, greater gas savings, and quicker starts as compared to spark plugs without a built-in resistor. And the Autolite resistor spark plug is only one of a complete line of ignition-engineered Autolite spark plugs designed for every use. So, friends, take a tip from me and see your Autolite spark plug dealer. Have him check your spark plugs. And remember, from bumper to tail light, you're always right with Autolite.
And now, Autolite brings back to our Hollywood soundstage Mr. Joseph Cotton in Elliot Lewis's production of A Watery Grave. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
How did I start to die? Then, at that moment, as we walked along the deck, did I start to die then because I knew I would kill Bartell? Does one die a little if one plans to kill a human being and die more when one does it? And to compound it, Your Honor. Funny to think, Your Honor. Funny to think that way now. To compound it by knowing your wife hates you more than anything in the world because she's terrified, infuriated by her hate, but pleased with her terror. How can she hate me so? In so short a time, I gave her everything. I tried to be something important for her, and rich for her, and killed for her. As we walked along the deck, I had no real idea how I would kill Bartell, no exact idea, but it had to be done. I held Betty's arm tightly as we approached the dark part of the deck near the railing, the place where Bartell was. Not actually a railing, an entrance for a ramp with only a chain across it. Bartell, this is my wife.
What did you decide?
I've been talking to her. I've been explaining to her.
What did you decide?
Don't talk to me like that, Bartell. Don't ever talk to me like that.
Do you put me in your stateroom?
Yes, of course.
And guarantee to get me off the ship?
I couldn't guarantee. Guarantees and things like this are impossible. There are officials to get at, ship's officers, and finding the right people.
Oh, you're good at putting in a fix, Mr. Callan. You've been putting in fixes all the way from the slums up to the penthouses. Ship shouldn't stop you.
Don't say things like that.
Why not? Everybody knows how McNeely pays off, and you're one of McNeely's boys now. Anytime he wants to put his fingers in a dirty deal, he'll use your hands to do it.
Don't talk like that in front of my wife.
She'll get used to it. McNeely doesn't care who knows about his dirty-handed men.
Shut up. I lunged at him. I didn't even reach for his gun he was carrying. He didn't think I was capable of doing it. His back was against the chain, his good arm flailing wildly. Over the chain, over and into the water. I didn't see in the darkness. I didn't know until I heard the scream.
Let go!
It was too late for Bartell to let go. Get a grip on my wife's arm. Before I could move, before I could do anything, it was insane. She was pulled over the side, too. Over into the water. I had to save her. There was little I could do to save her would be to save Bartell, but I didn't hesitate. I know that. I'm sure of it. I grabbed the nearest life preserver and hurled it over the side. I could barely see them struggling in the water with the ship's propellers coming nearer. And then I knew I would have to jump. I would go over. I could still finish Bartell and save Betty. Still, I could have everything, and it would be called an accident. I went over the side. Lie flat. Don't try to swim. The wash from the propellers.
Help! Robert, help!
Don't fight. Loose on the back wash. Loose. Suddenly the terror was gone, and I could see Betty staying afloat near the life preserver, and beyond that, Bartell struggling with one good arm, struggling to get to the life preserver first. I forgot about Betty. I forgot everything except that I had to get him before he took the life preserver. You'll never get it.
Keep back! A gun! I have a gun!
Nothing now.
Robert, don't!
Keep away from me!
Now.
Keep away!
Now, Bartell. Now try to talk.
Hands, shoulders.
Now, tell your story underwater.
No!
Tell it.
Oh, no!
From the sea. Tell your story. Tell it from the sea.
You murdered him.
It was Bartell or us. Take the preserver and hold on to it. Don't you understand? It was Bartell or us.
I never knew you.
Oh, the ship will turn around and pick us up soon. You must understand.
I never really knew you. It takes something to kill a man.
Bartell was the killer. A ruthless man. I know. I was the one who forced him to turn state's evidence.
Something horrible in you. Maybe that's why we've been growing apart. Maybe I saw it but didn't recognize it. I'd never seen it before.
You see it every day in the eyes of the people.
That's a lie.
Look at the murders. Look at war. Can't make people kill each other if they don't want to.
Could you? How could you? I'll never forget the look on his face when he knew he was going to be drowned. That you were going to do it. The terror.
Oh, crying. Crying for him. Crying for a hoodlum, a killer. Crying for a gangster.
Yes. Tears for him.
Oh, he doesn't deserve it. Why should he be cried over? Why him? You never wept for me.
I weep for you, too.
I don't need pity. I don't need your pity.
I'm not giving you pity. Trying to find a way to forgive you.
Yeah. Hold on to the life preserver.
Don't.
You'll drown if you let go.
Get away from me.
Oh, you clawed me.
Don't come near me. You only want the life preserver.
All right, you want to believe it. It's true. And I'll get it.
I'll claw you. I'll claw your eyes.
You'll never have a chance.
The water carried me faster. You'll never catch up to me.
I'll catch up. Oh, Betty. Don't be a fool. Come back. Betty. Come back. The ship will turn around. The ship will save us.
Die, Robert. Die like you'd let anyone die for you. Die for yourself.
I don't need a life preserver. I can hold out until the ship turns around.
They're still going for the horizon.
Ship. They'll turn around. I'm the biggest suite on the ship. They'll miss us and turn around in a few minutes.
What makes you think you're so important? What makes you think you'd be missed?
I am important.
What makes you want to be so big? So much?
Oh. It was for you. What I've struggled so hard to get. Oh. For you.
For yourself. Getting rich to please yourself, but you never enjoyed it either.
You would have left me if I'd stopped. Stopped making so much.
I only wanted love. Only wanted a family, your love, your children. Only yours.
Oh, you mean that. You do mean that.
Too late. Too late.
Oh, we can't. Oh, in time, we can forget.
How? How can I forget? How can you?
Oh, you're right. It was for me, and it wasn't for the money, for the wealth. It was for power. Not even that. Oh, darling, my darling Betty. Oh, my wonderful Betty.
Robert, the ship is turning. Hold on, Robert.
I can't.
And I'll come to you. The life preserver, it can support both of us.
When did I start to die, Betty? I'm dying now. When did I start to die?
Don't talk. Hold up, Robert. Hold up.
When I knew I would kill Bartell. Oh. It was sooner. When I said I will look the other way. Yes, Mr. McNeely. You can kill Bartell. I will look the other way.
Hold up, darling.
Yes, Mr. McNeely. Only I started to die long before, years before. Maybe I've been killing myself all my life. A slow way. The subtle way.
Darling, please hold on a minute longer. Only a minute.
I can't. My darling. I love.
Robert.
Suspense. Presented by Autolite. Tonight's star, Mr. Joseph Cotton.
This is Harlow Wilcox speaking for Autolite, world's largest independent manufacturer of automotive electrical equipment. Autolite is proud to serve the greatest names in the industry. And during these early months of 52, the Autolite family joins in saluting the leading manufacturers who install Autolite products as original equipment. Our Autolite family is made up of the nearly 30,000 men and women in 28 great Autolite plants from coast to coast and in still other Autolite plants in many foreign countries. It also includes more than 18,000 people who have invested a portion of their savings in Autolite, as well as 96,000 Autolite distributors and dealers in the United States and thousands more in Canada and throughout the world. Our Autolite family will salute the leading truck manufacturers who use Autolite products on the next Autolite Suspense television program. If you live in a television area, check the day and time of Suspense on television so that you'll be sure to see this program. And remember, be with us next week for another thrilling Autolite Suspense program on radio.
Next week, our star will be Mr. Frank Lovejoy in the recreation of an historical puzzle, a radio dramatization of The Wreck of the Old 97, a story based on fact and presented on Suspense. Suspense is produced and directed by Elliott Lewis, with music composed by Lucian Morowick and conducted by Lud Gluskin. A Watery Grave was written for Suspense by Arthur Ross. In tonight's story, Mary Jane Croft was heard as Betty, Stan Waxman as McNeely, and Joseph Kearns as Bartell.
Joseph Cotton may soon be seen in The Untamed, a Universal International picture co-starring Shelley Winters.
And remember next week on Suspense, Mr. Frank Lovejoy in The Wreck of the Old 97.
Last July, the nation's worst flood in a decade smashed through Kansas and Missouri. The Red Cross was on the job to relieve the suffering and shelter the homeless. This was only one of 300 domestic disasters in which the Red Cross gave aid last year. To carry on its vital work, the Red Cross needs your financial aid now. Give generously. This is the CBS Radio Network.
That was Suspense with A Watery Grave from March 10th, 1952. I'll be back with my final thoughts of 2024 in just a moment. Welcome back to Classic Radio Rewind. One last programming reminder, tonight, December 31st, Old Time Radio USA kicks off its annual Suspense New Year's Marathon. If you enjoyed this Classic Radio Rewind episode of Suspense shows, then you'll want to continue on beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern Time tonight. Ring in 2025 and celebrate the new year with Old Time Radio USA and Suspense. My friends, we here at the WOTR Radio Network would like to thank you for your listenership and support throughout 2024. The WOTR Radio Network is the oldest streaming old-time radio station on the internet today. We have provided the best in old-time radio programming since 1999, both in selection and sound quality. In 2024, we celebrated 25 years and we hope to continue bringing you the best in old-time radio for many more years to come. We also have more to come from Classic Radio Rewind in 2025. So, from all of the old-time radio stations on the WOTR Radio Network and from Classic Radio Rewind, we wish you a very happy, peaceful, and prosperous new year. This is Barry Slinker saying goodbye for now in 2024. Happy New Year, everyone.
Classic Radio Rewind, is a production of the WOTR Radio Network. For more Classic Radio Rewind and to listen to any of the WOTR Radio Network stations, go to www.wotrradionetwork.com.